Jim, you've been very quiet. We haven't really hit on anything, but I was wondering from the architecture point of view, any like gotchas that you find that when you start working with hospitals, they may be like, well, what do you mean? This is the first we've heard of it, type of things.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Mike and Phil and Jeanette. I feel like I'm getting a private seminar on Expanse implementation do's and don'ts. And, us hardware guys, we're like plumbers. We're hidden in the back closet. And, we don't learn a lot unless we get out into daylight and use and things like that. And those aren't happening. So this is really, really nice. I feel like I should send you guys Uber Eats gift cards and buy you dinner for sharing all this really great info. Look, I would say the biggest disconnect we noticed in the early going, and I think the number of Expanse customers we're hosting is disproportionate to the number of customers overall. I think you said, Terry, it's about a third of MEDITECH's clients. It's about 2/3 of our clients. And I think part of that is because, I don't know if any of you on the panel came from Magic, but if you're coming from Magic, it's 3 to 5 times the hardware. It's a big, big hit. And so for a lot of people, taking that CapEx hit that they couldn't do, or if they could do it, they weren't sure they could manage it from a security point of view, from a performance management point of view. I think one of the hard things is when MEDITECH was doing their business planning around this, it's clear that they wanted to arm their sales team with some wins in terms of functionality, also in terms of cost management. And so I think all the MEDITECH salespeople went out and said to all the customers, well, if you do Expanse, you can throw away all your Citrix, and that's going to save you a lot of money. And that set this expectation with customers that if the only application you are running is MEDITECH, it's absolutely true that you could throw away all your Citrix. Because the MEDITECH web application servers, which you don't have to pay license fees to a third party for, will handily replace Citrix with regards to rebroadcasting MEDITECH content that's essentially been recomposed for web output on the fly in this vast VM rendering farm that's in the background. I think the problem is MEDITECH views desktops relative to how they use them, but I don't think they always think about how customers use them. And to customers, a desktop is this expensive, difficult to manage item that is perhaps best rationalized when it's completely virtualized, disconnected from the user, and then offered to the user as digital workspace. And so for a lot of hospitals, it was, how do I reduce the incremental cost of managing end user computing during Expanse without losing the other functionality I need, which is either related to security paradigms, related to single sign-on, related to how I host other applications next to or adjacent to MEDITECH. So there was more to that than meets the eye. And if I think there's one place that we were kind of caught in the middle of sorting out the set expectations, it's how many virtual machines and how much memory are those virtual machines consuming for your web application farm, and how much Citrix do you have to keep, how much are you allowed to get rid of. And I use Citrix generically. If you're using a virtual desktop like VMware Horizon View, it would be the same argument. So I think there was a lot of discussion around that in the early going on the architecture side.
At Anderson, we went from client server, and we probably tripled the number of servers we had. Just even from right now, from a data conversion standpoint, we've spun up, I believe, 20, about just over 20 servers that are focused just solely on data conversion right now.
We wondered too with our data conversion, just to bring it back to that topic, our system was so ungodly slow when we went live. And we wondered if it was because of the amount of data we converted, where if we would have just keyed it in, if it would have been cleaner. I don't know if that's true or not. We're going live with Priority Pack 17 in a few weeks. And
Same here.
MEDITECH keeps promising us you're going to have a faster system with that there's so many enhancements to it. But I've talked to other hospitals that are live, and they said, "Oh my gosh, it's faster than our old EMR." So they've been incredibly happy with Expanse. But we've fought this slowness of 5 to 7 second chart load times on every single click, and it's better than it was. But we've also bought new on-site SANs and other things to try to improve it. But we've been very unhappy with speed and performance. And Priority Pack 17 is supposed to fix some of this for us.
We've been fortunate not to have experienced that. So, yeah, that makes a difference on the physician acceptance.
Yeah.
So I guess, for Jeanette, Mike, and Joel, did any of you consider, just out of curiosity, doing something like a hosted model, so you don't have to have the, all the staff that maintain all the, I mean, if it grows that much, did your departments grow accordingly, or, I mean?
Hardware side, no. We've added a lot more informaticists to support in the conversion, the training, and all that stuff. I would want to talk to Jim. We host our backups with CloudWave and close that. Jim, are anybody seeing performance issues, whether you host them or if it's self-hosted?
We haven't heard of any situations where, somebody's faster on premises versus faster in cloud. If you go back to some of our very first sites who were implementing Expanse, there were priority packs, it felt like every week.
Yeah.
Trying to troubleshoot the back-end engine between the web application servers and the web and the hosting servers themselves that were presenting that application back. The back-end machinery of Expanse is a Swiss watch. I mean, there's a lot of work being done to make sure that the users don't know that the application they're running is actually a 567 application that's being represented in a web window.
Yeah.
And so, as a result of that, if the server advertising the application and the web application server even go out of sync a little bit on the back end, you have a situation that comes across like a bad Zoom meeting in terms of the end user experience. And we learned very early on to just shovel all our technical chips into end user experience. So by the time we were done with Grandview in Pennsylvania, which was sort of our beta for this, and it was a very complicated environment because we were maintaining, they had applications that relied on about 400 seats of a local Citrix farm, but then they also had enough web application servers to support close to 1,000 users. And that was in the moment where MEDITECH had initially memory sized the web application servers to support 2 active sessions per physician. And in the beta group, the average Grandview physician had 8 windows open. And nobody had recognized that was going to happen. So now if you're on the other side of this, right, here I am, the middleman, or we are CloudWave, and you've got, we've got over 500 servers in our Ohio data center hosting Grandview that were sized for the original specs of Expanse. And they're physical machines that are virtualized, but every single one of those servers had, at the time, 512 gigs of base RAM in them. Over the course of 6 months, we doubled them all to 1 terabyte of RAM to accommodate the new specs for the web application servers, and customers who couldn't scrape up the capital to copy that in on-premise implementations, I think were jammed up in terms of performance. But that was a big capital hit we took that year, and fortunately we were in a position to take it. I will say, I don't want to sound negative, it's gotten better and better and better and better, and the word is this priority pack coming out, or that is out, that you all were talking about, and you're much more intimate with it than I am, because, you know, for all the work I do for MEDITECH, I'm not a customer, right? I'm just a helper being. But my understanding is there's significant improvements in the way memory and virtual memory are utilized by the web application servers in this new priority pack, and customers should be pretty happy with what it does with end user experience. If you wanted me to try to wrap a metric around it, I'm really afraid of rules of thumb. That's why they're called ROTs. But the rule of thumb we have is, if we have about 64 milliseconds or latency of less to a customer, we can duplicate the live in the same building desktop experience.